Good morning everyone. Today we'll continue the remaining rickettsia zoonosis. So yesterday we have seen regarding scrub typhus, murine typhus and Indian tick typhus. Today we'll continue with Q fever and other following rickettsia zoonosis. Coming to this Q fever, it is an infectious zoonotic disease which is having worldwide distribution, and it occurs mainly in the persons who are associated with the sheep, goat, cattle and other domestic animals. So as you can see in the picture itself, as I have kept here, it is mainly occurring from the cattle, it is mainly occurring from the persons who are rearing the sheep and goats and other kind of domestic animals. So coming to the agent factors of this Q fever, the causative agent here is Cocci a burnetii, and it is found in ticks which acts as a vectors as well as reservoirs. These are mainly found in the ticks. These ticks are acting here as vectors, reservoirs. Coming to the next one, animal hosts. So what are these animal hosts? The animal hosts are nothing but cattle, sheep, goats and other ticks. So these are considered as a natural reservoir, and these animals, these infected animals, these are capable of shedding the infectious causing agent through the feces. So what they are doing whenever they are urinating or whenever they are going for any kind of feces, so the organisms which are present in the infected animal, they are getting heavily shaded out and they are contaminating the soil. Next one is, if you see the placenta of these infected animals such as cows and sheep, these are capable of producing the aerosols which is occurring during the delivery time, and these aerosols are capable of infecting the other persons. And next one, animals such as camels, horses, dogs and many other domestic animals, these are capable of acting as a maintenance host for this organism, disease causing organism Q fever. Coming to the mode of transmission here, so this one, it differs from the other rickettsia infections and there is no arthropod involved in the transmission to man. But whereas the other rickettsia infections, directly it is not transmitted between man to man. Something has to be, some medium has to be present in order to transmit to man. So coming to cycle here, so here if you see, as I said, these goats and these cattle, so whenever an infected cattle or infected sheep or infected domestic animals, whenever these are contaminating, whenever these are getting infected, whenever they shed the feces and they go for urinate, they are heavily contaminating the dust particles and placenta from the cows and goats. These are capable of creating the aerosols during the birthing of animals. So directly they are contaminating the dust. So whenever a human is going and coming in contact with the dust or directly coming in contact with these animals through the aerosols, he is resulting in the infection which is called as Q fever. This is the transmission for this Q fever. So as I said, the transmission, it is mainly resulting from inhalation of infected dust from the soil which is previously contaminated by the urine and feces which is shed by the disease infected animals. Next one is, it can be also transmitted through the aerosols, and mainly the other type of entry to the man is whenever a person is having any kind of skin aberrations. If he goes and comes in contact with the soil, then immediately you can find the organism which is present in the soil, it is capable of infecting the person. And the in the conjunctiva also you can see, and the meat which is taken from the infected animal and milk products and milk which is coming from the infected animal, it is capable of giving the infection to the human being. And if you see here, the most type of transmission is mainly occurring through respiratory route. Incubation period of this Q fever is usually about 2 to 3 weeks. And what are all the clinical features that we can observe is, so here we can observe acute onset with fever, we can observe chills, we can see generalized malaise and headache. And the clinical picture is like persons will have influenza and non-bacterial pneumonia will be there other than the typhus fever, and there is no rash or any kind of local lesion because it is not coming from the ticks. Next one is this infection can cause pneumonia, it can cause hepatitis, it can cause encephalitis, and sometimes in rare conditions it can even cause endocarditis. Coming to the preventive measures of this infection, so the thing we can do is pasteurization and boiling of the milk. So as we know that this disease Q fever, it is mainly occurring from the infected animals. So whenever these infected animals are giving us, whenever we are feeding on them or whenever we are taking any kind of material such as meat, milk or milk products from the infected animal, these are capable of causing an infection to the healthy person. So the thing you can do is proper pasteurization and proper boiling of the milk. What they will do, they will inactivate the causative agent. So the other thing that you can do is we have to protect our cattle. So how we can protect? We can protect the cattle by providing the sanitary cattle sheds. And the next thing you can do is adequate disinfection. So proper disinfection, what it will do? It will kill the microorganisms and this organism which is Coxiella. And the next thing you can do is disposal of the products. So whatever all the birth products are there, end products are there. So whatever the infected material is occurred from the which has taken from the infected animal, these things can be disposed in a proper way so that they are not contaminating the surrounding soil or the surrounding areas. And the persons who are always exposed to these infected sheep or the infected cattle or infected domestic animals, they can receive the vaccine, inactivated Coxiella vaccine, which is available. And this vaccine can protect the occupationally exposed workers. And there are several types of vaccines are available, but they are still in the developmental stage. Coming to the next point here, what are all the other rickettsial infections? Means we have endemic typhus and we have rickettsial pox and we have trench fever. So these are the other types of these rickettsial infections. So first we'll discuss regarding the endemic typhus. So this endemic typhus or loose born typhus, it was the past and most formidable disease which is caused by the rickettsia. And it is mainly causing most problems among the military and refugee population, where these areas are affected by this famine. And if you see here, the modern insecticide which had occurred, the modern insecticide which are present nowadays in the market, they have reduced the prevalence rate because they act effectively on this endemic typhus causing organism. And if you see here, no cases were reported in the Southeast Asia since 1978 and in Western Pacific since 1969. But even though this disease is not present in the Southeast Asia region and Western Pacific region, still it is present in some parts of Africa as an endemic and South America. So the countries which were affected are like Ethiopia, for example, and in South America we can see Peru, Bolivia. So these are the other types of countries which were still affected by this disease, endemic typhus. And next one is all of them are known endemic areas of this disease. So all these countries are the known endemic areas of this disease, endemic typhus. Next, here if you see here, this infection is transmitted from man by an infected louse. So this is a tricky type of transmission here. So whenever an infected whenever a man is in a febrile state and whenever the louse is coming and biting the person, the organism which is taken from the infected person, it will enter into the organism and it will multiply in the lining of the intestinal tract. And this louse, it will produce it will gain its capability of infecting the other person within 3 to 5 days. So if you see here, the statement is saying the louse gets infected by the feeding on infectious patient during the febrile state. So whenever a person is in the febrile state, whenever he is infected with this endemic typhus, whenever a louse is coming and biting him, the organisms are entering into the intestinal tract of the louse and they begin to appear within 3 to 5 days, mainly in the feces of the louse. So how this disease is transferred to men? So this disease, it is not transferred to men by louse bite, but it occurs whenever a louse is coming in, resting on a person's body, whenever a louse is going for feces. So if the person is scratching the area himself, what he's doing, he is inoculating the feces into the skin itself, and he is getting infected. So by crushing an infected louse on the person, so whenever a louse is coming and biting you, if you are crushing the, if you are beating the louse, then you are automatically getting infected with that particular louse. And the other thing you can do is through inhalation. So whenever louse pieces are coming in the form of dust, whenever a person is inhaling, it will result in the infection. So the infected louse, after 10 to 14 days of existence, dies of the infection. So whenever the louse is getting infected, it is capable of transferring the disease within 3 to 4 days. But within 10 to 14 days, this louse also will die due to this infection. So if you see here in humans, the organisms can persist for many years as a latent infection without any kind of signs and symptoms. Mainly when a human is getting infected, see, these organisms, they can stay for longer periods, for years also, and they do not show any kinds of signs and symptoms. So what are all the control measures means here? So anti-louse measure activities can be done, and if you are able to improve your personal hygiene and living conditions, these type of diseases can be prevented. The next thing you can do, under the international health regulations, this louse-borne typhus, it is a subject to international surveillance. So ultimately proper surveillance has been made on this disease. So if any kind of this endemic typhus is came to know, so what they will do is they will act immediately, and they will follow according to the guidelines which were provided by this international surveillance, international health. The next topic is like rickety-shell pox. So men gets this infection through the bite of these infected mites. So these are mainly found on the mice. These are found on the mice. What is the organism here means? It is mus musculus. So it is a transovarial transformation which occurs in the mite, and the mouse acts as a true reservoir as well as a vector. And this rickety-shell pox, if you see, it has a similar feature like chicken pox. So you have to distinguish between the chicken pox. It can be confused with the atypical cases of the chicken pox. The last thing is trench fever. So this is mainly occurring in the Central Europe. It is limited to Central Europe itself, and here the vector is louse, and the disease is mainly transmitted by the louse species, same like endemic typhus. And if you see here, man is the only known reservoir for this trench fever. So with this we have concluded the rickety-shell zoonosis. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, please like, share and subscribe the channel. And if you have any doubts regarding the topic, you can drop it down in the comment box. Thank you so much.